School is a difficult location to grow young people and adults with fulfilling lives. Usually you'll see students disobeying teachers by refusing to listen to guidance. On the other hand, some teachers cannot see what makes students act this way. Devin Brown, a teacher at Brashear High School in Pittsburgh, describes what is often at the core of this disconnect between teachers and students.
All of us are vulnerable to dealing with students who have behavioral issues. If sometimes kids are struggling at school or struggling socially at school, avoiding going to class, being oppositional with school teachers or with school leadership, often that's rooted in struggles at home or struggles with mental health or struggles with sort of social and emotional development, oftentimes tied to poverty as well.
Brashear is a diverse school with students from many different backgrounds. Categories include students who are refugees in LGBTQ communities, in poverty, and students of color. One thing they all have in common? The need for emotional and mental support within schools. In recent years, counselors are charged with caring for students' mental health and emotional needs more than ever in the past.
Those counselors, especially since the pandemic, have recognized the social and emotional need that many of these kids have now. So in addition to counseling students about which classes that they should take and how to be successful in those classes, they have this extra layer now of a student's well-being, their mental health. So suddenly the counselors have an increased responsibility beyond just helping a student pick classes and explore careers.
While counselors are working for student success, they must also bear the responsibility of keeping the student's mental health in good shape. There are many more students than there are counselors, which hinders much ability to give mental health support. I've also interviewed Paige Jokey, who works with the Education Law Center and talks about the balance of counselors to students in schools.
What we know from research is that only less than 20% of Pennsylvania public schools meet the nationally recommended ratio of 250 students to a single counselor, which is already a huge workload for one person. And we know that 20% of Pennsylvania school buildings have a ratio of 550 or more students to one counselor or no counselor at all. And so these rates are just totally unacceptable, and they don't provide the space and time necessary to build relationships.
Brown also agrees with this sentiment.
Counselors are 100% overworked. They're understaffed in that department. So, for example, at Brashear, where we have roughly 1,000 students, we have 6 counselors. 2 of them are dedicated to work specifically with students with special needs. The other 4 divide up the mainstream students.
Oftentimes, behavioral issues will also lead to social issues within the school. These social issues can be fitting in with other students, bullying, or in general relating to the teachers. Jokey had this to say.
So what we know actually right now is that the teaching force is really shockingly unreflective of the communities that they're serving.
Teachers often go through training for managing behavioral and social challenges in their classrooms, but unfortunately some do not put the lessons into practice.
There are always some adults who are kind of resistant to that idea or have maybe what I will call sort of an old school perspective. And those teachers go through the same training that I sit through, but sometimes they come out of it with a, not necessarily changed or different perspective.
Creating a diverse school that is also seen as a safe place requires a lot of work on the part of students, teachers, and counselors. Students must learn to be more open-minded to those that are different from them. We must also advocate for more diverse school faculty. Again, Brown says,
we need teachers from a more diverse background, and that could help have a body of teachers who is more predisposed to understanding perspectives different from their own.
And stated by Jokey,
for students that did have access to mental health supports, one student had some particularly impactful things to say about working with a counselor who was a Black woman and the way that she was able to discuss the intersectional barriers she faced at school.
As long as students find teachers and counselors that they can relate to and receive support they need from both, there will be a decline in behavioral issues. From the SLB Youth Media Center, this is Roy Blankenship for the Pittsburgh Youth Media Corps.